The Federal Reserve adds another 3/4 of a basis point to the interest rate. So we'll be talking just a bit about what happens with that and the fact that the Dow puked out another 500 points immediately as soon as the 3/4% basis point was announced. So we'll be talking about that. In other news, completely forget about the fact that housing prices are falling and crashing because of the interest rate, that your grocery bills are 3 times what they were the year before, and 2 times what they were the year before that. Hey, forget about the fact that unemployment is starting to tick back up, and so are the gas prices. And forget about the fact that the sitting president called for the extermination of his political enemies. No. Pay attention to the fact that Letitia James is now suing Donald Trump. And he's in the headlines. Think about that when you go to the polls. So we'll talk about that and what that means as we go forward. A man in North Dakota is released on $50,000 bond for admitting to murdering a Republican extremist. And this is in base North Dakota, so we'll be talking just a bit about that. And Vanderbilt is now under investigation, pending something that was found during a Matt Walsh documentary. So we'll go over some of that. Plus, we will do things that I like and a few things that I hate. Actually, a couple things that I like and a few things that I hate. It is going to be all this and more. We've really got him this time. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. F's in the chat for Arvold, by the way, because we just found out that he is having restrictions on the video that he can watch while he's at work. He had asked for a link for an audio platform. There is no audio only that I put up that's live, because I don't know of a platform that'll do that. If you can find a platform that'll do audio only live, then I will gladly get on it. I do still have a couple slots left on Restream to go and do so. One of the things to consider, and this would be considering cycling through DLive or Twitch or YouTube to see if any of them will work with the phone screen closed if you're listening over on the phone. I know that with BitShoot, which is on the App Store's BitSlide, for BitSlide, like if I watch a YouTube video, like if I hate myself and wrist cut myself and watch Tim Pool on YouTube while I'm at work, or do something on my phone, because I've got the little wireless earbuds here, which I like these, by the way. These are not the thing I like, but I do like these, and they were $20. But if I'm at work with that and I'm watching like a video on BitSlide, I don't have to have the screen open for that. That one I can start the video. As long as the video is started, I can hit the lock screen button on my phone, and I don't have to. The screen doesn't have to be on. But with YouTube, because I don't pay for premium, the screen has to be on at all times. And again, I don't know what methodology you're using, if you're using the cell phone, if you're using the computer screen or whatnot, but that is something to think about when you're with that. Otherwise, I will, if it makes it easier, obviously you wouldn't be able to be here live, but I will start hitting the record button again. I slacked off on it again, but I know over on my screen over here, what I'm looking at over here, what you can see over here, is if I hit this record button, it makes the video along with what we're doing with the stream. I don't know why I just put this over and docked that over on the screen, because I don't have the screen share up right now. But that's what it is. Okay, never mind. But I do have a record button that I can use and make an instant. It's still, I don't think, would be able to be uploaded before I go to work. That's the only problem. Because I'm pretty much cutting tail and hitting out the door as soon as I get done with this. But those are some ideas for what to do. But yeah, we do love to have you here, definitely. So maybe experiment with a couple of platforms. I have to go and pay Rumble again, by the way. And that may be a way to do it too, Rumble or Odyssey, if I can figure out how to get those set up for streaming as well. Or again, if there is an audio-only platform or something that suggests, or you can suggest that I'm not currently on, let me know and we'll figure out if we can get onto it. Maybe one of the weird Japanese streaming services. I don't know, but we've got a lot to get to today, so we can filibuster talking about how we can help out with our Volt. And actually, that's not a bad idea to look into. Because once again, we're looking into the idea of trying to appeal to an AM radio audience. Which means that there are going to be people who are either in the car and can't have the video on, or in the office and can't have the video on, not just our Volt, but can still come back and play along in the audio stream. So those are a few things to think about. Definitely, if you have suggestions, I will get on to new ones here. So let's get into it. Let's get started. Before we do, make sure you guys go check out great programming such as The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The R-Rated Conservative, The Porch Boys. Go check out Mr. Behavior. Mr. Behavior and I are, once he's out of school, actually planning on working on a project together. In addition, well, in supplement to the Turns and Pages project, trying to get into the culture war, into a place that even the Daily Wire, Tim Pool, or any of the others haven't thought about, and this is going into possibly a video game studio. I don't know what kind of undertaking that's going to be, but I'd like to get involved into some of that and get that part of the culture away from it, because there are the official complaints. Oh, The Last of Us. Oh, we have to have a transgender lesbian character in this, otherwise we can't put this game to the market. Whereas I would rather just put out a game where you can pretend to be an Italian plumber and go bash blocks with your head and hope to get coins out of them. But that is what we have for that. Go check out PG Patriot, tweets by Britt, KTZed, the No Gimmicks podcast, as soon as he's back at stateside. Go check out all those great programs as we work together for a goal to bring you news by the common man for the common man. And let's get into the news of the day. We're going to start with, as we usually do, the finance section. And we can see, now that I do have the screen share up, that yes, it was a steady day throughout the day yesterday. It rose up just a little bit above where it was the day before, and it kind of held steady throughout the day. There was one little hiccup, but it quickly recovered, actually coming back just above where it was immediately prior to that. And then the Fed rate announcement came in, and it was just done. It was over. The Dow ending yesterday at 30,183.78. That is down 1.7%, or 522 points. So it's not looking good for this right now. We will see what the futures do now that we are done processing what the rate hike is going to be. Looking in at your Bitcoin, the Bitcoin on the day has been on a steady rise, bringing itself back up to $19,272 and 50 US cents. Still not sitting above the $20,000 line, but flirting around with it, as we can see. It does look like throughout the day yesterday we flirted with a $20,000 line. Didn't quite make it, and then it fell back off again, bringing itself back up into a steady rise, as we see on today's Bitcoin news. On the day, the Bitcoin is up $807 and 50 US cents. On the 5-day, it is down $840 and 80 US cents. So that is what we see for that. And let's look at gas. Let's actually refresh this, because I think I picked this from last night. Alright, gas in the BP in Stoughton is still at $2.89. There's got to be a line around that place, dude. There has got to be a line around there. With that being said, when you look in at something like that, when everything else around you is at $3.18, 30 cents higher, 30 cents higher than the next lowest gas station, I've got to imagine that there are cars backed up around Main Street in Stoughton. There's got to be police presence out there, making sure people are out there and behaving and not blocking traffic or anything else like that. But that's a pretty good deal. Looking in further, the quick trip in Sun Prairie is at 318, along with the quick trip in Madison. 318 seems to be the benchmark around Madison, but we also get up and see some 319s and a 323 as well. Not as high as it was yesterday, but we're fluctuating into that steady mark, and we will see what happens with the fuel. Let's see what IBD has to say. I was listening to Styx's live stream after the fact. I didn't listen to it live because he's on at the same time I am. But I was listening to his live stream after the fact while I was at work yesterday on, oddly enough, on BitSlide with the screen closed. And one of his super chatters had actually mentioned that, and he didn't say the location, but where he was, gas went up 50 cents overnight. It went from like $3.30 to $3.90 overnight. But we'll continue to watch this. Let's see what IBD has to say. Dow futures stock market sell-off as hawkish Fed sees new terminal rise. From Ed Carson. Dow futures tilted higher Thursday morning along with the S&P and the Nasdaq. The stock market whipsawed sharply lower on Wednesday after the Federal Reserve hiked aggressively once again and signaled a higher peak or terminal rate. This is a stock market correction. Investors should remain cautious but looking for leading names. Celsius Holdings, Shockwave Medical, ATI, Global Foundries, and Enphase Energy are all showing strong relative strength in a weak market. Celsius Holdings and Shockwave Medical are on the IBD leaderboard watch list. Celsius Holdings, Enphase, and Shockwave Medical are on the IBD 50. Enphase is the IBD Big Cap 20. Celsius was Wednesday's IBD stock of the day. Meanwhile, Shockwave was Monday's. For the Fed meeting, as expected, the Fed raised its key interest rate by 75 basis points for a third straight meeting, lifting the target range to 3% to 3.25%. Fed policymakers now see the Fed funds rate at 4.4% at the end of 2022, up from 3.4% after the June meeting. That's what markets are pricing in, another 75 basis points at the November meeting, followed by 50 points in December. Good luck, because by December, you're going to see what energy actually costs. Now that we're probably most likely going to be shipping some over to help out our friends in Europe, that's going to start pricing into your energy bills here probably within the next 3 to 5 weeks. So brace yourself for that. I would almost be willing to see a full percentage point in November. Followed by 50 in December for a year-end range of 4.25 to 4.5. The central bank also signaled some modest tightening in 2023, predicting 4.6% Fed funds rate at the end of the year versus a 3.8% forecast in June. That's also not out of line with what market watchers have expected for the terminal rate. Policymakers expect the rate to retreat to 3.9% in 2024. Oh goody, we have to wait till 2024 to refinance the houses that we had to buy under this ridiculous rate. Jerome Powell once again stressed that the central bank won't let up versus inflation. He noted that a soft landing will be difficult, but wouldn't say what the odds of a recession are. Dude, we're in a recession. How can you sit there and say, oh, we don't know what the odds of a recession are in, while you are in the middle of a recession? At some point, the Fed will slow the pace of rate hikes, Powell said, but didn't indicate when that might happen. He added that Fed policy will need to stay restrictive for some time. Powell said the labor market continues to be out of balance, though he added that commodity prices look like they have peaked. Yeah, well, we have been hearing that since about this time last year, and they keep going up. On the futures, Dow futures rose 0.35 versus fair value, the S&P climbed 0.2, and the Nasdaq climbed 0.1. Futures have been trading around break-even for much of the morning after falling solidly Wednesday night. The 10-year yield rose 3 points to 3.54%. Crude oil rose more than 1%. Natural gas prices fell 1%. Give it time. I'm warning you. Give it time. And remember, Overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. So that's what we see coming off of that. I wanted to, instead of just doing by the numbers when we do the economic segment, I actually want to talk about what's happening with real world. Because I try to build a news program by the common man for the common man. So I picked this one from The Blaze yesterday. And it says on the headline, American families may have to spend an additional $11,500 just to get by this year due to inflation. From Joseph McKinnon. Those of you who are subscribed over on Twitch, give me a I did that sticker, if you could please. Recent estimates, both from members of U.S. Congressional Joint Economic Committee and from NerdWallet, indicated that the average American household may have to spend $11,500 just to maintain the same standard of living as in previous years. Priced out of past standards, the price of eggs last month was up 39.8% over August 2021. Gasoline was up 25.8%, health insurance 24.3%, groceries 13.5%, and plane tickets 33.4%. Although the 10.8% drop in gas prices in August reportedly slowed U.S. inflation, these and most other prices have continued to climb. Consumer inflation over 2021 was, as of last week, 8.3%. The U.S. Congressional Joint Economic Committee Republicans published their state inflation tracker. Results in late August indicating both the annualized inflation cost per household and price increases since January 2021, when President Biden took office. In New York, the annual cost per household is $8,483. In California, it's $9,476. In Colorado, $11,438. In Texas, $8,915. In Florida, $9,318. In Arizona, $10,167. And those are just a handful of states. Your results may differ. I know that I am probably up a good $5,000 in spending just so far on the year in this house. And this is, by the way, after cutting a lot of spending. I have not been to my mom and dad's house since Christmas. I want Biden to know that. I want everybody in the audience to know that. I have seen them because we have a halfway point that we can go to that my parents spend time at. But I haven't seen my nieces and nephews since Christmas either. That actually bums me out more than anything, that I haven't seen them for that long. I realized that the other day. I haven't seen them since Christmas. Because I've cut my spending. Now, I will admit, a part of that is not just, it's not just standard of living. There have been times where I could have run up and gotten the truck and run up there. But I also need tires right now. I'm at that point in my life. And I am trying to squirrel away the money as quickly as possible to put up some sort of earnest payment on a house. I do qualify for a few first-time homebuyer programs, but I also want to pad that up with a little bit of my own money, and trying to get out from under the two big black marks on my credit still, where it was another driver for this. So, with that being said, yeah, if I was still going up there once a month like I was last year, and twice a month the year before, and I wonder why my tires are bad. If I was still doing that, then yeah, I would be shelling out buku bucks. Prices increased 13.3% from January 2021 to July 2022, reflected in an additional monthly cost of $717 for the average American family. The report noted that even if prices stop increasing altogether, the inflation that has already occurred will cost the average American household $8,607 over the next 12 months. Using inflation and annual spending from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, NerdWallet determined the household expenditure may rise by $11,500. American families spent, on average, $61,300 in 2020. This year, exact same purchases, food, gas, and clothing, will run upwards of $72,900 owing to inflation. So, and we can sit there and we can say 8.3, 8.5, 8.6%, 9.1%, 10.2%. We can say those numbers. We can say $3.89 a gallon, $3.19 a gallon, $3.22 a gallon. But when we start to break it down, once we put the groceries in and have these think tanks go through and chart what it costs year over year, it does put more of that into perspective. I couldn't afford to bring my expenditures up to $72.9. It just wouldn't happen. But that's where we're at right now. That's what we see. And with all this in mind, the mainstream media would love for you to talk about your personal experiences. The mainstream media would love for you to talk about what's going on at the grocery store and how it feels at the gas pump. And, oh wait, I'm just kidding. No, they want you to talk about something else entirely. Reading from CNBC, and actually watching, I put this one up here so we could watch the video.
Donald Trump.
Yes, we know that's the name that you want to talk about here.
Donald.
So, Letitia James came out and made an announcement. We'll probably watch about half of this video, because I'm not going to sit here and watch the entire 6 minutes of this and listen to the lies, but Letitia James has announced a lawsuit of Donald Trump, his company, and family members over fraud claims. That's it. We've got him this time. He's really going to prison this time. Let's listen.
Donald Trump for violating the law as part of his...
The New York Attorney General.
I am announcing that today we are filing a lawsuit against Donald Trump for violating the law as part of his efforts to generate profits for himself, his family, and his company. The complaint demonstrates that Donald Trump falsely inflated his net worth by billions of dollars to unjustly enrich himself and to cheat this system, thereby cheating all of us. He did this with the help of the other defendants, his children, Donald Trump Jr., Ivanka Trump, and Eric Trump, and former Trump Organization CFO Alan Weisselberg and Trump Organization Controller Jeffrey McConney. Mr. Trump and the Trump Organization repeatedly and persistently manipulated the value of assets to induce banks to lend money to the Trump Organization on more favorable terms than would otherwise have been available to the company, to pay lower taxes, to satisfy continuing loan agreements, and to induce insurance companies to provide insurance coverage for higher limits and at lower premiums. This conduct was all in violation of Executive Law, Section 6312, which gives the Attorney General broad and special powers to go after persistent and repeated fraud and illegality. As part of demonstrating illegality under that section of Law 6312, we show that they violated several state criminal laws, including falsifying business records, issuing false financial statements, insurance fraud, and engaging in a conspiracy to commit each of these state law violations. We believe the conduct alleged in this action also violates federal criminal law, including issuing false statements to financial institutions and bank fraud. And we are referring those criminal violations that we've uncovered to the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York and the Internal Revenue Service. As a result of these violations, we are asking the court to, among other things, permanently bar Mr. Trump, Donald Trump Jr., Ivanka Trump, Eric Trump, from serving as an officer or director in any corporation or similar entity registered and or licensed in New York. To bar Mr. Trump and the Trump Organization from entering into any New York State commercial real estate acquisition or from applying for loans from any financial institution in New York for 5 years. To pay for the financial benefits obtained as a result of the persistent fraudulent practices at an estimated $250 million. And towards the end of my remarks, I will go into the other relief that we are seeking. At the center of the year-long financial scheme were the statements of financial condition that were prepared annually by and for Mr. Trump, specifically from 2011 to 2021. These statements were compiled by the Trump Organization executives and were issued as a compilation report by Mr. Trump's accounting firm. The statements are explicit that the preparation was the responsibility of Mr. Trump. Or starting in 2016, the trustees of his trust, Donald Trump Jr. and Alan Weisselberg, for the sole benefit of Mr. Donald Trump. Each statement was personally certified as accurate by Mr. Trump or by one of his trustees as part of the loan process. In the statement, Weisselberg would meet to review and approve the final statement every...
All right, that's enough of that. Boy, there's a lot to unpack with just that. And by the way, I've read some of the articles around this, but that was actually the first time that I'm listening to this. Now, one of the big questions that that we've been hearing for the last approximately 22 hours over on Twitter is, well, they got him this time, and she's also recommending charges to the Southern District in New York and to the federal DOJ for doing any of this. The first thing that I'm going to point out, the absolute first thing, and it was already brought up in the chat, is both the government and the banks, if they were both concerned for this, should have had their appraisers out doing their own appraisal. For the exact same reason. If the bank, now I can go back, I can't use my house because I don't own my house, I live in an apartment, a 600 square foot apartment. But let's actually use that for example, because I am looking at buying some property within the next 12 months. I go off and I buy a house in the midst of the crash. A nice 3-bedroom after everything crashed out and the family that was there got foreclosed on. I've got my nice 3-bedroom now, and I paid $70,000 for it, which is probably not going to be out of the question. Now, if I go back to refinance that after the rates come back down, I can go back and get it valued out at $120,000, depending on where I live. So I can go and get $120,000 back out of that, which I can use to either improve the house, start up, or expand Turns of Pages Productions or anything else like that. Or, I can just go out in the bank and say, hey, don't totally trust me. My house is worth $250,000. Now, give me a loan for $250,000. And if that bank just comes out and stamps on the paper and says, okay, that is probably not a bank that you should be going to. It's the first side of it. But it's the same thing with taxes. Well, go the actual other way. Huh. What the hell is this? My tax bill. God, that is excessive. My house really isn't worth, Mr. Tax Assessor, it's not really worth $120,000. I only paid $80,000 for it. Do you really think the tax assessor is going to come back out here and say, okay, yeah, you're right, $80,000 it is? No, he's going to send another person out here and say, no, I'm going through your house and it's not worth $80,000. It's worth $120,000. Now pay me. Or I will have my nice friends over here with guns on their hips come in and put you in a small box And we're going to take your house away from you. So some of the onus of this is going to be on the state of New York for not going and doing their own tax assessment, and the banks for not doing their own assessments. But, I mean, there's a litany of other problems with this. There's a massive amount of problem with this. First off, here's going to be the other question. It doesn't work both ways. Either you're overvaluing your properties to come back out and tell the world that you're richer than you are and you're good for a better loan than you are, or you're undervaluing your properties to go and get out of the taxes. But, I mean, both of those go in completely opposite directions. And the bank, especially licensed in New York, as corrupted as it is, they got to be communicating back and forth with each other. Especially on major, major pieces of real estate, like the Trump Tower. I can't believe that there's not some communication between the two. But that's what we see. Let's read. Maybe. All right. New York Attorney General Letitia James, who's been conducting a civil investigation of former President Trump's company, announced a major lawsuit of Trump, 3 of his adult children, and his company over widespread fraud claims. James' announcement comes nearly a week after the New York Times, a former newspaper, reported that she had rejected an offer from Trump's lawyers to settle her probe of the Trump Organization, which is based in Manhattan. James' office was investigating the company for possibly fraudulently misstating the value of various real estate assets to receive financial benefits in the form of more favorable loan and insurance rates and tax breaks. Trump has repeatedly denied any wrongdoing and accused James, who is a Democrat, of being motivated by politics to investigate the former Republican president. In August, Trump appeared for a deposition conducted by James's lawyers. He invoked his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination more than 440 times in refusing to answer questions under oath, which he should, and so should the rest of you, if the state ever tries to bring a problem to you and, well, as I mentioned before, send a man with a small sidearm to take you and put you in a small room for non-compliance. Jr., who runs the Trump Organization with his brother Eric, answered questions from investigators on her oath earlier in August, as did their sister Ivanka Trump. Ivanka previously was an executive at the company. And I love how the fact that they've got to put in there, oh, they invoked the Fifth Amendment more than 500 times. So, if your local government, or the federal government for that matter, comes in and sends a man with a small .45 caliber sidearm to carry you off and put you into a small box, you have the right against self-incrimination. If they want to put you in a small box away from everybody else, then I'm sorry, those bastards are going to have to work for it. They will have to work for it. And that's how it should be for the rest of you. It's like a meme that my ex-co-host Elaine put up at one point, with somebody kneeling down in front of the dog. I think I have that in my phone still somewhere. I'll have to put that in the Discord again. Commanding the dog to speak, and the dog comes back and says, "Not without my lawyer present." Good boy. So, that's what we have coming for this. One from NBC proper. New York AG sues Trump, 3 of his children, and their company, charging large-scale business fraud. From Summer Concepcion and Tom Winter. New York AG Letitia James filed a sweeping lawsuit against former President Trump, his 3 eldest children, and the Trump Organization in connection with their years-long civil investigation into the company's business practices. In the suit, which runs more than 200 pages, James's office details what it says are Trump's efforts to inflate his personal net worth to attract favorable loan agreements, and alleges more than 200 instances of fraud in over 10 years. Again, if the bank didn't do their own verification, that's kind of on them. James is seeking to permanently bar the Trump family from serving as officers of New York-based companies and prevent Trump and his company from entering into commercial real estate acquisitions in the state for 5 years. She's also seeking $250 million in penalties. In addition, her office is sending a criminal referral to the IRS and U.S. prosecutors. No, wait, I got it the first time. In Manhattan, she said. For too long, powerful, wealthy people in this country have operated as if the rules do not apply to them, James said in a statement. Donald Trump stands out as among the most egregious of this misconduct because we don't want him to seek office again in 2024. With the help of his children and senior executives at the Trump Organization, Trump falsely inflated his net worth by billions of dollars to unjustly enrich himself and cheat the system. A spokesperson for the IRS Criminal Investigations Division declined to comment specifically on James's criminal referral comments, but said in a statement to NBC News, IRS Criminal Investigation receives tips about potential criminal activity from a variety of sources every day. Special agents review information for further criminal investigations. The agency doesn't confirm the existence of investigations until court documents are publicly available. Alina Habba, a lawyer representing Trump in this case, said James' lawsuit is neither focused on the facts nor the law. Rather, it's solely focused on advancing the AG's political agenda, which is probably true. Now, what is the political agenda is the question. Why now? Of course, we have the political agenda of let's make sure that we're going to put him in jail because we need to go back and put him in jail. We hate him. He needs to go to jail. And as was mentioned in the chat, bring me the man and find me the crime. That kind of thing. But why now? And I teased a little bit of this right before we listened to Letitia James's speech. Right now, Russia is remobilizing, getting ready to hold Ukraine hostage. So after all those taxpayer dollars that you have sent over to the Ukraine, and you'll notice, by the way, the mainstream media is not talking about this unless, oh, there was an incursion and they took back a little bit of their real estate. Unless there was that, you don't hear about the Ukraine in the news anymore. The only time you hear about the Ukraine is when they get a minor win, but the Ukraine is losing. And of course, you can't see it because of where my camera is, but you've got the little puff piece down in the corner right now of new evidence of atrocities in the Ukraine. So you've got that. After all the millions of dollars that were sent over there, you've got the fact that we just talked about, where Americans are spending $11,000 more year over year for an average family. The Martha's Vineyard thing showed the hypocrisy that the left has over the illegal immigration crisis. No, we're sanctuary cities. Just don't bring them here. Let them find their own way. If you bring them here, we've got to go shuffle them off to somewhere else. And we're going to file charges against the Republicans. We're not going to say anything to the Democrats, but we're going to file charges against the Republicans for sending their people here. Hey, let's go after DeSantis for kidnapping. In a major sense of hypocrisy. The gas prices in a lot of places are starting to go up. The gas tax holiday is starting to end, and you are about to see a major increase in your gas prices right before midterms. Not to mention, and I will end on this before I say what I think the political agenda is, the leader of the free world, the President of the United States, stood up in front of Independence Hall in Philadelphia in front of a blood-red background, shaking his fist and stopped just short of calling for the gas chamber for his political enemies. Why, oh why would Letitia James want to put Donald Trump back in the news right now? Nobody's talking about the documents anymore. Everyone's talking about Martha's Vineyard. Nobody's talking about Mar-a-Lago. Nobody's talking about the raid. Because a lot of people are starting to figure out that if they can't put up the documents, they've got nothing. What are you going to do with top secret classified documents you can't show to a jury of one's peers? I think that's starting to come off of this. So, hey, let's go back and put him back in the headlines once again. Hey, the DOJ is not going to recommend a charge within 60 days, but I will. So yes, there is a major political agenda, and I don't even think it is to try to put him in jail. One of the things that gets me is, I mean, when we read out down here, her office is sending a criminal referral to the IRS and U.S. prosecutors in Manhattan. You are the Attorney General of New York. It is well within your own capacity to file a charge if you think there's a charge there. I would like to remind Letitia James of what her job is. She can impanel a grand jury in and of herself. Or she can file a lawsuit, put this back into the headlines, and then come out and say, oh, well, I sent things out to the IRS, which conveniently doesn't discuss any ongoing criminal investigations until documents are publicly available, and U.S. prosecutors in Manhattan, in which the federal DOJ does not discuss an ongoing case until documents are publicly available, therefore passing the buck off of herself, and when nothing comes out of it, it's just, oh, well, the incompetent people in the federal government, he got away again. Oh, shucks, he's like a mob boss. He just keeps getting away with it. So, that is what they have to say with that. Bill Barr got into this one. Bill Barr tells Fox News that Letitia James' lawsuit against Trump is a political hit job and will make people sympathetic for Trump because it's another example of people piling on because of Trump derangement syndrome. Let's listen to actual intelligent speech from Bill Barr for once.
Mr. Attorney General, good to have you in today to talk
Good to be
about
here,
all
yes.
of this. It would seem that her goal is to bar anybody with the last name Trump from ever working for the Trump organization again.
Right.
It would seem that her goal is to eviscerate the family business. What do you think of what she's doing?
It's hard for me not to conclude it's a political hit job. And this is a woman who campaigned for office saying that, promising she was going to go after Trump, which I think is a tremendous abuse of office to go headhunting and targeting individuals. So I think she was targeting Trump. And this is, after 3 years, a civil lawsuit, the gist of which is that when the Trump organization borrowed money, Trump personally guaranteed those loans. And to support that, she's claiming that he inflated his assets on his financial statements. Now, I'm not even sure she has a good case against Trump himself, but what ultimately persuades me that this is a political hit job is she grossly overreaches when she tries to drag the children into this. Yes, they had roles in the business, but this was his personal financial statement. It was prepared by the CFO. Accounting firms were involved in it. The children aren't going to know the details of that and be able, and nor are they expected in the real world to do their own due diligence and have it, reviewed independently. And so this to me looks like gross overreach, which I think is going to end up backfiring on them, because I think it will make people sympathetic for Trump, that this is another example of people piling on because of Trump derangement syndrome, this strong desire to punish him.
This is a long series of allegations, and welcome to you. Thank you very much for joining us.
I'm good at giving credit where credit is due, and we saw that with Biden and the child sex abuse victims lawsuit law that he signed into law a couple days ago, and I gave him credit for that. And with Barr, I'll say the same thing. I have no love for Bill Barr. In fact, when he was tapped to be the AG, I said, this is going to backfire. This is not going to go well for somebody who wants to go back and, quote, drain the swamp and fight the establishment and all the other fun little buzz terms that we heard off of this. I said at the time, this is not going to turn out well for you. This is going to turn out poorly for you, and this is going to backfire. And it did. But when he says something that actually makes sense, something that works, something that's correct, I will give him credit where credit is due. You are correct in this, Mr. Barr. This is a political hit job. Barr, for his faults and his loyalty to the deep state, is one of the more objective deep staters out there. It's not saying much because it's not a really high bar to clear. But he's the closest to objective I think that we have in this kind of thing. And when you go back and do something like this, you're going to see more people start to look at this and say, okay, if they have to file a lawsuit, if they have to do this civilly, why can't they do a criminal referral? Why do they keep going after this? It's like the anti-big tobacco commercials from years ago. What was it? Truth was what they called it, where they went out and they put a big billboard out there that was supposed to do something other than make me want another cigarette. They show the commercial where they put up a billboard in a crowded area, and then they'd freeze the frame and bathe it all in orange and put an asterisk over the head of everybody, indicating that these people, their minds were instantly changed by a billboard. Well, some of that's actually going to start to happen as people see, oh, well, another lawsuit. Oh, well, man, how much am I going to have to spend on my groceries this week? And you are going to start to see some of this. It's not going to be everybody, and there is going to be a measure of Trump derangement syndrome, especially if you're over on Twitter. But do keep in mind that Twitter is not real life either. It's the economy, stupid. Let's read from the Daily Wire. Bill Barr reveals what he thinks will happen next in Letitia James' civil lawsuit against the Trump family. Former AG Bill Barr said Wednesday that he does not believe New York Attorney General Letitia James' civil lawsuit against the Trump family is going to go anywhere, and what convinced him that she's overreached on the case was that she decided to go after the children as well. The lawsuit targets the former president, his business, and many associates. In addition to the former president, the lawsuit targets Don Jr., Eric, Ivanka, and Weisselberg, Jeffrey McConney, the Revocable Trust, the Trump Organization, and others. The lawsuit seeks to punish the targets with a $250 million penalty and a ban on operating any business in New York. James also seeks to ban Trump and the Trump Organization from purchasing any real estate in New York for the next 5 years. The New York AG is also referring her criminal investigation into Trump to the DOJ for criminal charges. When asked during a Fox News interview Wednesday what he thought would happen next in the case, Barr responded, well, for one thing, she brought this as a civil case, and that is important. Because that's what tells me that she's got absolutely nothing. This is not a criminal case, Barr said to me. That says that she doesn't have the evidence to make a criminal case. She's setting a lower bar and bringing this as a civil case. I don't think it's going to go any further now. It's over 200 pages long, with a lot of details about the valuation of properties. But the fact of the matter is that real estate valuation of a complex real estate company like this is inherently very subjective. It depends what kinds of assumptions are used. Values can swing depending on whether it's viewed as a property that's going to be split up or one that's kept together and so forth. So it's not an exact science, Barr continued. And the fact that the banks, sophisticated banks, don't rely on every jot and tittle in the financial statements. They do their own assessments. They make themselves comfortable. Sometimes they automatically discount that kind of submission. And the loans were paid back. These were successful investments. And the banks were paid back, said Barr. So, to have spent 3 years on this seems to me her trying to make good on a campaign promise that she was going to bring Trump down. And what campaign promise are we talking about? Why, I have it. I had video. There we go. I was looking in the wrong tab when I was looking up new things off of this. Trump War Room tweets out the campaign promise. Let's listen.
And what would you say to people who say, oh, I'm not going to bother to register to vote because my voice doesn't make a difference, or I'm just one person?
I say one name, Donald Trump.
That should motivate you. Get off your ass and vote.
Will you sue him for us?
Oh, we're going to definitely sue him. We're going to be a real pain in the ass. He's going to know my name personally.
I love it. And what would you say to people who say...
The fact that this video exists, by the way, it should be enough for you to discount everything that's happening off of this. With a political axe to grind, Letitia James is going after a private citizen, privately, in a civil suit, not a criminal case, but a civil suit, to keep a campaign promise. But also, and again, to keep Trump's name in the headlines coming into a major midterm election that is still predicted to be somewhere between a loss and a slaughter for Democrats. It's plain and simple. If Trump is on the ballot, Democrats lose. Or, I'm sorry, Democrats win. If Trump is not on the ballot, Democrats lose handily. And I do think, as far as the House goes, statistically, mathematically, there's no way for them to win. But if they can hold or increase their holding in the Senate enough to get by the evil filibuster, then it's going to be an acceptable loss for the House. If Biden's on the ballot, Democrats lose. If Trump's on the ballot, Democrats win. And unfortunately, that's the situation that we're in right now. The mainstream media and Letitia James together do not want you talking about what is happening on Capitol Hill today. They don't want you talking about the groceries, Martha's Vineyard. They want you talking about Lindsey Graham's abortion bill. They want you talking about Roe versus Wade. And they want you talking about Trump. Because they want to keep raising your grocery bill, your energy bill. So you stop going and using these kinds of things. That is Letitia James telling us exactly what she's doing right now. 3 years ago. Let's listen to that one more time, especially since it's a short one.
And what would you say today? Oh, I'm not going to bother to register to vote because my voice doesn't make a difference, or I'm just one person.
I say one name. Donald Trump. That should motivate you. Get off your ass and vote.
Will you sue him for us?
Oh, we're going to definitely sue him. We're going to be a real pain in the ass. He's going to know my name personally.
I love it.
So, that's your motivation, and that's what's happening with that. That's what they want you talking about, rather than everything else that's happening around the country right now. Oh, we got one from Politico, 5 juiciest takeaways. From Politico on top of it. You know what, I'm going to skip this one. We've talked this one to death, and we've given this woman more times. More time than she deserves right now. Let's move on and talk about what else is happening in the country. From Local 12. Man arrested for hit and run death of teen he had a political argument with. From CNN News Source. Police say North Dakota man killed a teenager in a hit and run following a political argument. Shannon Brandt has been charged with felony vehicular homicide in the death of Kaylor Ellingson. According to court documents, Brandt told officers he had a political argument with the 18-year-old and felt threatened because he believed the teen was calling people to come get him. Mr. Brandt, are the people in the room with us? Can you see them? Are they talking to us? What are they saying, Mr. Brandt? But Ellingson's mother told the police the teen called her saying someone was chasing him. Investigators say Brandt hit Ellingson with his vehicle, left the scene, but returned to call 911 before leaving again. I don't condone what he did with hitting a teenager at 45 years old. But if you are going to go to that extent to go commit the crime, like the moron that you clearly are, don't go back to the scene, you dumbass! Excuse me. Again, I know that we're trying to cater to the AM radio audience, but seriously, don't go back to the scene. There's your typical Biden voter right here. Ellingson was taken to the hospital where he'd passed away. F in the chat. I'll do my due diligence. Let's see. Brandt was arrested at his home. Investigators say a breath test determined that he was drunk. He has since been released on $50,000 bond. And a quick question and a real question. And I would love to see if they determine when he got drunk. Because I'm going to say right off the bat, if you have chased down and killed a man in cold blood over a political argument, you're probably going to need a little something to take the edge off. I do have to wonder, because he got arrested at home, if he went home and opened the bottle of Jack and started chugging. And we do have more to this story. Man admits to killing teen after political dispute in Foster County, court docs allege. From Renee Nygren. A community is in mourning the loss of an 18-year-old man from Gray City, North Dakota, as investigators look into what led to a deadly crash. Foster County deputies were called to a hit and run that happened in an alleyway near Johnson Street and Jones Avenue in McHenry, North Dakota. Is there any place in North Dakota big enough to have an alleyway? Court documents say at 2:35 a.m. Sunday morning, 41-year-old Shannon Brandt called 911 to report that he had hit a pedestrian because he was threatening him. Brandt told state radio that the pedestrian was part of a Republican extremist group and that he was afraid that they were coming to get him. The pedestrian has been identified in a GoFundMe as 18-year-old Kayler Ellingson. If, by the way, you guys would like to help out with this, there is the link. After visiting the scene where the incident happened, deputies went to Brandt's house in Glenfield, North Dakota, which is about 12 minutes from the crash scene. Brandt admitted to consuming alcohol before the incident and stated he hit Ellingson with his car because he had a political argument with him. Brandt also admitted to deputies that he initially left the crash scene, then returned to call 911, but left again before deputies could arrive. Court documents say just before the crash, Ellingson called his mom and asked if they knew who Brandt was. She said yes and told her son that she was on his way to pick him up. A short time later, court documents say Ellingson called his mom again to say that he or they were chasing him. It was after the second call that Ellingson could not be reached again. Ellingson was pronounced dead at Carrington Hospital. Brandt has been charged with criminal vehicular homicide and DUI. Court records show a judge set bail at $50,000. So we go from arrested for a teen he had a political argument to admitting political dispute. Let's read Mia Cathell, 41-year-old suspected killer Shannon Brandt, who admitted to hitting 18-year-old Kayler Ellingson with his car over the teen's conservative views, was released. On $50,000 bond, Brandt has been charged with vehicular homicide and leaving the scene of a deadly accident. Jail confirmed to me that Shannon Brandt, who was reportedly confessed to killing a North Dakota teen because the 18-year-old victim was part of a Republican extremist group, posted bond and is back on the street. Since his release, it appears that Brandt started scrubbing his social media, which is probably the best thing that he can do before going to trial. Yep. Banner picture is gone. I don't know what else this is supposed to show, by the way. Registrar. There's the charges. 18-year-old Kaylor Ellingson was killed in an apparent politically motivated attack. Moments before he was hunted down and slain in an alleyway, the teen called his mom to come and rescue him. Here's the GoFundMe for Ellingson's funeral expenses. An affidavit says Brandt fatally struck the teen over a political argument. Brandt claimed Ellingson was threatening him, believed that he was calling people to come and get him. Ellingson's mom said he was being chased by Brandt, didn't know him, and was calling her for help. I've obtained the search warrant and criminal complaint that says Brandt failed to render aid to the dying teen who was found slain in the alleyway, fled the fatal hit-and-run crime scene, and returned to his residence in a different city where he was later arrested. And yeah, we've got this video here, which we will. You know what? Let's do it now. Brandt said he had a tough time understanding the charges against him in the killing of 18-year-old Kaylor Ellingson. I have a job, a life, and a house, and things that I don't want to see go by the wayside. Family that are important to me, Brandt told the judge in his first court hearing. Let's listen.
I don't understand the differences.
41-year-old Shannon Brandt had a tough time understanding the charges against him, vehicular homicide and leaving the scene of a deadly accident. A judge ordered Brandt held on $50,000 cash, which he objected, saying he's not a flight risk.
I have a job and a life and a house and things that I don't exactly want to see, go by the wayside. Family that are very important to me. I don't understand the differences.
41-year-old.
And KTZed finishes off saying, read my town hall report about alleged killer Shannon Brandt's quick release from jail just 2 days after he confessed to mowing down a teen he accused of being a Republican extremist. There are actually people, by the way, just so you know, there are people who are trying to pan this as self-defense. That he got in his car and killed an 18-year-old in self-defense. I would need to see a lot of evidence to get behind that. By the way, I will eat my words and go back off this if they can prove self-defense. But they're trying to use the Rittenhouse side of this. Oh, well, Rittenhouse defended himself against a dangerous political extremist, so that's what this guy did too. That's what Brandt did. I don't know that that's going to wind up being the case, and I think alcohol is going to be the factor in this. But I also think that it is absolutely ridiculous that this guy's out on $50,000. And yes, he absolutely is a flight risk. He's already left the scene of one crime. So, let's grab one from Fox. North Dakota man free after admitting he mowed down Republican teen over politics, records show. We'll touch on this briefly. Shannon Brandt spent just days in Stutzman County Jail on criminal charges related to the death of the 18-year-old Kaylor Ellingson before he posted his $50,000 bond and was released according to county jail records. Brandt's listed attorney could not be reached by phone and did not immediately respond to Fox News Digital's email inquiry. Brandt stated the pedestrian called some people and Brandt was afraid they were coming to get him, the document continues. Brandt admitted to state radio that he hit the pedestrian and the pedestrian was part of a Republican extremist group. Circumstances and other facts according to the probable cause affidavit. On 9/18/2022, I, blank, was contacted by redacted and requested to respond to Northern Foster County for a fatality hit-and-run accident. I responded from my residence north of Jamestown. According to the state radio logs, the reporting party, identified as Shannon Brandt, stated he struck the pedestrian because the pedestrian was threatening him. Brandt stated that the pedestrian called some people and Brandt was afraid they were coming to get him. Brandt admitted to the state radio that he hit the pedestrian and the pedestrian was part of a Republican extremist group. Once on the scene, I met with Redacted and was shown the area of the incident. Limited evidence was observed in the nighttime. The first responder, who was first on the scene, interviewed and showed where the male pedestrian's body was approximately located. This responder, identified as Redacted, stated that the family of the pedestrian showed up along with the family of Brandt shortly after his arrival. I declare under penalty of perjury under the law of North Dakota that the foregoing is true and correct. Signed on this 18th day of September 2022 at Jamestown, North Dakota, USA. Redacted. Redacted. Ellingson's parents later told police that they knew Brandt, but they did not believe their son did. Ellingson's mother described how she was on her way to pick up her son from McHenry when he called her and said that he or they were chasing him. She could no longer reach him after that. Investigators later tracked Brandt to his Glenfield home, where they stopped him outside the house and he began talking, the affidavit states. Brandt admitted to consuming alcohol prior to the incident, the records show. Let's read. Redacted responded to Brandt's parents' house in rural McHenry, then to Brandt's house in Glenfield. There, Brandt was interviewed by Redacted outside his residence and admitted to consuming alcohol prior to the incident. Brandt admitted to striking the pedestrian with his car because he had a political argument with a pedestrian and believed the pedestrian was calling people to come get him. Brandt admitted to leaving the scene of the incident and returning shortly after, where he called 911. Brandt did not remain on the scene until law enforcement arrived and ultimately returned to his residence. Brandt was placed under arrest for DUI, North Dakota's Criminal Code 390801, and transported to the Stutzman County Jail. Brandt was advised of his Miranda rights and implied consent advisory. Brandt consented to a chemical breath test. The results of the chemical breath test were above the legal limit of .08. The pedestrian was identified at the Carrington Hospital as Redacted, which we already know his name. I met with Redacted parents in Grace City. There I asked what time Redacted contacted them, to which Redacted's mother informed me that Redacted called her at approximately 0241 hours. There she stated Redacted knew that Brandt, asked if they knew Brandt, to which she stated the parents did but did not believe Redacted did. Redacted's mother stated that she told Redacted that she was on her way to get him from McHenry. A short time later, Redacted called again, stating that he or they were chasing him, and after this she could not reach Redacted. Brandt's phone call to state radio was logged at approximately 0255. Redacted was pronounced deceased at Carrington Hospital. So, I guess we spent a little bit more time on this than I thought we were going to. We watched this video already. But I wanted to touch on this particular Daily Wire article with the blood red background and the shaking of the fists. A man killed a teenager for being a Republican extremist, police say. Is the president still responsible for political violence? No, of course not. He has a D after his name. Presidents are only responsible for political violence if they're both orange and evil and orange. Yeah, who's on the Twitch side that's got the I did that sticker? Oh wait, I can do that. This is from Tim Meads. Per the rules of the left and the legacy media, the president is responsible for any violence committed by supporters of his ideology. Yeah, let's talk about the congressional baseball game. At least that was the rule imposed by the left during the Trump administration under President Biden. His allies in the press and politics have no desire for enforcing that idea. Perhaps no case is more evidence of this than the tragic death of Kaylor Ellingson. Earlier this week, a North Dakota man named Shannon Brandt allegedly ran over Ellingson due to a political dispute. Authorities say that Brandt used his truck to mow down the teenager because he was part of a Republican extremist group. What that Republican group is, we don't know. It doesn't matter. Ellingson's political affiliation wouldn't justify being killed by a fellow American. You know, Unless for this. Yet the incident also comes fewer than 3 weeks after Biden called upon all Americans to defend democracy against MAGA forces. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic, Biden said in Philadelphia against a blood-red backdrop flanked by 2 Marines. But there's no question that the Republican Party today is dominated, driven, and intimidated by Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans, and that is a threat to this country. Threats to the country, especially coming from groups of individuals, are usually handled with force. The president's speech made it abundantly clear that he believed the entire nation was under attack and even asked for help from Americans who oppose Republican extremism. Look, as your president, I will defend our democracy with every fiber of my being, and I'm asking every American to join me, he claimed. If the allegations out of North Dakota are true, Brandt killed Ellingson because he thought he deserved it for his political beliefs. His initial statement to police used strikingly similar language to the president's speech. The president did say during his speech, We can't allow violence to be normalized in this country. It's wrong. We each have to reject political violence with all the moral clarity and conviction this nation can muster. Now! Of course, the White House also claimed the president's speech was not a political one, so it's not entirely clear what meets Biden's definition of political violence. What is clear is the Republican president would never be afforded such leniency after delivering a speech as Biden did in Philadelphia. His language would be condemned in the strongest words possible, and any violence that followed would be blamed on him. Heather Heyer. A man got in a Charger running away from a bike lock professor and hit a bystander, and that was a vicious murder of a political enemy. In the eyes of the people the Daily Wire are talking about. Again, here's the chain of events between Biden's speech and the death of Ellingson. On September 1st, the commander-in-chief practically declared 74 million Americans to be threats to democracy. He asked for help defending the country against Republicans' extreme ideology. On September 18th, an 18-year-old called his mother for help and was subsequently killed by a man for being part of a Republican extremist group per police. On Wednesday, Brandt posted a $50,000 bond, is now out of jail as he awaits trial. It doesn't need to be said, but there will be no detailed reports in legacy outlets exploring the impact that Biden's words had on political violence. Ellingson's name will not be blasted across cable news. Heather Heyer. And Biden will face no condemnation for rhetoric from America's self-appointed moral arbiters in media. The next time any leftist pontificates about political violence supposedly caused by a conservative, they should be asked to explain whether or not Biden's words led to the death of Ellingson. This is an op-ed, which they didn't put this into the end until the end of the article. So the disclaimer comes: the views expressed in this piece are the author's own and do not necessarily represent those of the Daily Wire. Also, further on, the views expressed in this article are the author's own and not necessarily reflective of the views of Contemporary, Turns the Pages Productions, or your host, J. Edgar. So that is what we see out of North Dakota. And we're not done yet, by the way. From the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, Fox 2 anchor Vic Faust fired from TV station after tirade. From Joe Holliman, Vic Faust, the Fox 2 anchor, who last week directed a profane tirade at a female co-host on a local radio show, has been fired by the television station. Vic Faust no longer works for Fox 2, KPLR, Channel 11, or Nexstar Media. The station's general manager, Kurt Kruger, said Wednesday morning Nexstar Media Group is Fox 2's parent company. Kruger declined to comment further, citing personnel restrictions. Faust used profanity at least 40 times in berating Crystal Cooper, who was part of the Faust Mornings Drive show on September 13th on KFNS 100.7 FM, also known as The Viper. Dude, if you're in St. Louis and you have to listen to terrestrial radio, if you can't go listen to internet radio, like most of my audience is, I can think of a better morning show to listen to than Vic Faust. Which I guess you can't listen to Vic Faust anymore anyway, but our good man Austin Peterson runs an AM radio show probably about the same time that we're here, which is why I don't typically promote it, because that would be directing you to go listen to my direct competition. In a social media post on Twitter about 12:45 p.m., Faust issued an apology. "I'm very sorry my words hurt Crystal, my colleagues, and my family. I made a huge mistake and I'm ashamed," Faust post said. "As I work to earn trust again, I hope we can have an open dialogue about respect in the workplace and forgiveness. My mistake is not my kids. Please respect their privacy," the post said. And we can listen to the audio and see what it is that got him kicked off. Listen to the edited audio of the exchange between Faust and his co-host, which means that we probably don't have to look at the Daily Wire article. Let's listen.
Wasn't. Listen, you're a fat nasty and you don't bring up on air when I have your back. You're a fat. I don't care if you're here or not.
Be like that, guys. Come on, man.
Serious?
I let it go yesterday.
But you called me stupid for the second time.
Who brought up the stupid subject?
It wasn't a stupid
you
subject.
You were making fun of me because I was dealing with the computer.
Chris was too. It wasn't just me.
No,
Chris was. Yes, he said, "Oh my God, it's going to be here in 3 weeks."
He didn't say anything on air.
Yes, he did. Go back and listen. He was laughing when I did it.
You have a history of attacking me on air, and Chris
No, I don't. You have a history of attacking me on air. Are you kidding?
You and your big fat looking at. Don't come back.
Really? You're not my boss.
Well,
I'm come.
And I'll call you a every day.
Okay, good
You're
for you.
Fat, self-righteous.
That's me.
And every day that you come in this studio, I will call you what you are.
Oh.
Fat, nasty bitch. And the only reason you have this job is because of me.
Nick, stop.
Okay.
Stop.
Wow.
I've told Chris 5 times about.
Understand.
And by the way, I reported your nasty 5 times to Chris about what you do on this radio. You attack me
What have I
constantly.
done 5 different times?
You've attacked me 4 or 5 times, and Chris said
I've
yes.
never attacked you. You've yelled at me twice, and this is the second time in break now.
The problem is that you think that whatever you do is right.
No, I don't.
Then
I will totally own it. You're literally explaining yourself.
You had no reason to bring up it to attack me on air yesterday, and you did.
I did not attack you. Grow the up. Grow up.
You grow up, you fat.
I'm not acting like an immature.
Really? Fucking, you started. And you always have
It's
to
bad radio when you keep bringing up your computer.
It's bad radio when you don't even know radio.
Yes, I do.
You're a dumb.
Okay, I'm a dumb.
You don't even know the topics we talk about. You're just stupid.
Okay.
You think you're special because you went to Villa, but you're nothing.
Okay. I think you're talking about yourself.
Okay. You're trash.
Okay. Grow up.
You don't attack other people on air. Don't ever
You do it all the time.
No, I don't.
Alright, that's enough of that. So, this guy seems charming. Now, the couple things first and foremost. If you're going to have a tirade about this, don't do it in a room full of recording equipment. It does appear that this was off air. Thankfully. During the morning, when, again, I talk about the kids in the car on the way to work, it does appear that this was during a commercial break, but if you're going to do something like this, you don't want to get caught and you don't want to get fired, you probably should not do so in a room full of equipment that will record every single word that you say. That is probably not a good practice to do so. You shouldn't be having an argument like this to begin with. Because that is just excessive. But my God, don't do it where there's literally microphones recording every single word that you have to say. That's going to come back and be used against you. It's just going to happen. So, let's see. Speaking of one side or the other here, we've got one from our friends over at Libs of TikTok, in which our friend here, TikToker, calls to ban Republicans from all establishments.
When are we going to start banning MAGA Republicans from establishments? Like, if you're wearing the shirt and you're wearing the hat, don't come in my store. Don't come in my restaurant. Kick them out of the fucking bank. I don't care. They're repping it like a gang. And anywhere else, gang violence isn't tolerated. So why is it for them? They're just uneducated white people. Kick them out. When are we going to start banning MAGA?
So, I've got a couple things to say about this. Obviously. That's why I put it on the stack. As far as this goes, you have, as a business owner, the right to refuse service to anybody. Or you should. They're protected classes, which I don't believe should exist. This actually goes back to a news story that I covered when I was still doing one-off solo videos way back at the beginning of this channel. I actually think that I did this particular video when I was still in my old studio, when I was still living with my ex. After we'd broken up, but we were still locked in a lease together. I think this goes that far back. There was a hardware store outside of Nashville, I believe it was. In or outside Nashville. There was a hardware store that had... the proprietor had put a sign outside that had said, "No gays allowed." And I had commented on that at the same time with the same thing with this. Now, under both situations, both the ban the MAGA Republicans and ban the gays, yes, you have the right to refuse service to anybody. And I would actually encourage you to do so. If you want to put a big sign outside of your establishment, and by the way, I hope that you put the biggest sign out there that says, "No blacks allowed in my establishment." I would actually imagine if the people who ran the establishment were the kind of people who would put that sign out there, it would probably say something entirely different. But, you know, we're on YouTube and we can't say that word on YouTube. But if they put a sign out in front of their store, I encourage them to do so. Put a big sign out that says "No blacks allowed." And trust me, I will not set foot in that store and you will not get a penny out of me. If you put a sign like that out front of your store, you have a very, very niche audience. You'll have a few people that come in because they want to see what's going on. They want to see what kind of establishment you're running. And you're going to have a few people, like my friend Midget B, like my friend Steven, probably, who will go in there just because they'll say, "Oh, this is so based." But, I mean, you're not going to appeal to the broader public. In fact, the broader public is going to look at this and say, yeah, I don't want to spend my money in a place like this. Conversely, with this woman, go ahead, put your sign out. "No MAGA allowed." And the people who want to go visit your establishment will just not wear any of their political gear. But for the most part, they're going to look at this and say, I don't want to give your money. Furthermore, conversely, and again, you're probably going to get a very, very niche audience. A bunch of super left progressives who think that Trump's going to jail, who are going to come in and say so. But the vast swath, and I think even across the center, the vast swath of people are going to look at this and say, "No thanks. You'll turn away money. You don't deserve to be in business." I encourage people to wear their bigotry out on their sleeves, to show how much they hate their fellow man, because that's not a good business model. It doesn't work, plain and simple. And if you're willing to turn away that level of money because people want to go in, and I believe that you make ramen, I think is your business. Is that why you're sitting here eating ramen? I have no idea what your business is. Definitely not advice. Says, I vaguely recall Germans doing something similar in the 30s. And Jack Hole James says, Democrats did this once before here in America. But also with that, and the cancel culture that goes with this, Pat Sajak accused of posing with Nazis after a photo with Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. From Thomas Kika. Long-time Wheel of Fortune host Pat Sajak became the subject of online scrutiny this weekend after a photo of him with GOP Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene began to circulate. It is unclear when and where the photo was originally shared. The Twitter account, Patriot Takes, which describes itself as a dedicated researchers monitoring and exposing right-wing extremism, shared the photo on Saturday evening, seemingly sparking a wave of negative reactions to Sajak. I think I'm blocked by these people. Wheel of Fortune host Pat Sajak with Marjorie Taylor Greene and Right Side Broadcasting Network reporter Brian Glenn. The account wrote in the tweet that included the photo. In his tweets criticizing Sajak, the documentary filmmaker Jeremy Neuberger said the Green had, in late February, appeared at the America First Political Action Conference in Orlando, an event organized by white nationalist Nick Fuentes. Mexican-American white nationalist Nick Fuentes. Fuentes previously took part in the 2017 Unite the Right event in Charlottesville, which leads me to believe he's probably an FBI agent, which led to a neo-Nazi killing a woman with his car. Oh, good, that story came up. Due to this association, Neuberger accused Sajak of posing with Nazis, even sharing a photo of the iconic Wheel of Fortune letterboard with the phrase on it. I'd like to solve the puzzle, Pat Sajak. It's only been 8 months since Marjorie Taylor Greene gave a keynote at a Nazi rally where the organizer praised Adolf Hitler, Neuberger tweeted, so by all means, Pat Sajak, take some selfies with her. Looks like Wheel of Fortune is morally bankrupt. So, over a photo like that, yeah, it's becoming a much more divided country, I can say that. All right, let's talk about Vanderbilt, because I know I promised that yesterday. And we might have to cut it after that. Which is a shame, because I did want to talk about the energy sector, but I don't think we're going to get there. I think we'll have to save that for tomorrow. But the cold weather is coming. We have a low of 40 tomorrow night in Wisconsin, which, by the way, for me means my windows are still going to be open, but... Governor Bill Lee calls for an investigation of Vanderbilt's pediatric transgender clinic following Matt Walsh revelation. From Zach Jewell. Tennessee Republican Governor Bill Lee has called for an investigation of the pediatric transgender clinic at Vanderbilt after shocking video was posted by Matt Walsh detailing a leader's promotion of big money maker transgender surgeries. The video obtained by Walsh also show apparent threats made against medical professionals at Vanderbilt if they object to the procedures, even for religious reasons. Do we have the threats? I don't know. Doesn't appear to be, but we'll look at some of the video that's in here. The pediatric transgender clinic at Vanderbilt raises serious moral, ethical, and legal concerns, Lee said in a statement to the Daily Wire. We should not allow permanent, life-altering decisions that hurt children or policies that suppress religious beliefs, all for the purpose of financial gain. We have to protect Tennessee children and warrants a thorough investigation. Lee's comments follow a detailed thread from Daily Wire host and author Matt Walsh at the Medical Center. In one of the videos shared by Walsh's BUMC Clinic for Transgender Health, Dr. Shane Siebold admitted these surgeries are labor-intensive, they require a lot of follow-ups, they require a lot of our time, and they make money, she emphasized. They make money for the hospital. Let's listen.
Starting in January 1st of 2017, according to the Affordable Care Act, insurance carriers are mandated to cover medical expenses for trans folks. Some of our BUMC financial folks in October of 2016, starting a couple of years ago, put down some costs of how much money we think each patient would bring in. And this is only including top surgery. This isn't including any bottom surgery. And it's a lot of money. These surgeries make a lot of money. So female to male chest reconstruction can bring in $40,000. A patient just on routine hormone treatment, who I'm only seeing a few times a year, can bring in several $1,000s because that requires a lot of visits and labs. It actually makes money for the hospital. Now these I got from the internet, but it's from the Philadelphia Center for Transgender Surgery, which does a lot of surgery for patients. And I just want to give you an idea of how much these bottom surgeries are making. And I think this has to be an underestimate. This is for a vaginoplasty. They're quoting roughly around $20,000 for a vaginoplasty, but that doesn't include your hospital stay, that doesn't include your post-op visits, that doesn't include your anesthesia, your OR. So I would think that this has to be a gross underestimate. I think that's just like the surgeon's piece of it, which anybody who's ever been in the hospital knows that that's like 10% of it. And then the female to male bottom surgeries, these are huge money makers. Again, I think this has to be an underestimate that they're quoting around $20,000 for a phalloplasty. There's been different things that I've read that said it could be up to $100,000. Dr. Winokur, who's our surgeon, says that there's entire clinics where the entire clinic is supported just by their phalloplasties, and that is like a fraction of the surgeries that they're doing. These surgeries are labor intensive, they require a lot of follow-ups, they require a lot of OR time, and they make money. They make money for the hospital.
So, and I mean, any major surgery like that, especially, let's face it, a lot of this is cosmetic at this point, is going to bring in a lot of money. So, that's we have with that. Follow-up for that, Vanderbilt was apparently concerned that not all of its staff would be on board. Dr. Ellen Clayton warned that conscientious objections are problematic. Anyone who decides not to be involved in transition surgeries due to religious beliefs will face consequences.
If you are going to assert conscientious objection, you have to realize that that is problematic. You are doing something to another person, and you are not paying for the cost for your belief. I think that is a real, I think that's a real issue. So I think, so yes, Vanderbilt, if someone has a conscientious objection to participating in this sort of surgery, it probably has to accommodate you to the extent that you can find another person who can do your job, who doesn't have an objection, other things of that nature. But I just want you to take home that saying that you're not going to do something because of your conscientious, because of your religious beliefs, is not without consequences. And it should not be without consequences. And I just want to put that out there. We are given enormous, if you don't want to do this kind of work, don't work at Vanderbilt.
Yes, don't work at one of the top, which, she's absolutely right. If you don't want to do something like this and they're going to be like that, don't go work there. Let them go scrape the bottom of the barrel for people with no moral compass whatsoever. I'm sure as a doctor, there's going to be plenty of practice out there because we still have a doctor shortage. I don't think this is as big of a threat as Dr. Ellen Clayton thinks that this is. It's not really hard for doctors to find work. Let's see, what else do we have here? Matt Walsh says, breaking, my team and I have been investigating transgender clinic at Vanderbilt here in Nashville. Vanderbilt drugs, chemically castrates, and performs double mastectomies on minor. But it gets worse. Here's what we found. Let's start at the beginning. And we've seen that tweet already, and that one. In case the objectors haven't gotten the memo, Vanderbilt unveiled a program called Trans Buddies. The buddies are trans activists from the community who attend appointments with trans patients, monitoring the doctors to guard against unsafe behavior such as misgendering. Vanderbilt makes their trans buddies available to children, too. They make lots of services available to children, including chemical castration, though at some point in the last month they removed explicit admission of this fact from their site. Here's the archived screenshot. Gender-affirming hormone therapy and pubertal blocking. But they must have forgot to delete a video from Vanderbilt Psychiatry's YouTube channel back in 2020, which admits explicitly that they will give and have given irreversible hormone drugs to children as young as 13. So there's a lot of stuff into this. I actually kind of want to go through this now. I don't typically care for Matt Walsh, because he is the Christo-fascist one. But I kind of want to go through and see what's actually coming, what they found out about this. So as long as Daily Wire doesn't have this up behind a paywall, I might look into this over the weekend. I know I got a drive ahead of me, so that might happen. Kind of want to dig some more into this. But, of course, eyes on the right, watching for right-wing extremism, comes back and says, the next wave of bomb threats is going to be wild. And guess what? Replies are off. He got close to getting ratioed, and they turned the replies off. Because why not? And another one here from the Daily Wire, just because they have the video clip on here. It's unthinkable. Matt Walsh discusses shocking revelation about Vanderbilt University Medical Center with Tucker Carlson. From Zach Jewell. We're going to skip over the intro and just listen to Matt and Tucker.
As we told you, Matt Walsh is the man who broke the story about Vanderbilt's abuse of children. He just met with Tennessee state lawmakers, Representative William Lamberth, State Senator Jack Johnson. They say they're working on a bill to shut this program down at Vanderbilt. Can't come soon enough. Matt Walsh joins us tonight. Matt Walsh, thank you so much. And for, among other things, illustrating how journalism can be a force for good, I think yours has been. Have you spoken to anyone at Vanderbilt Hospital about this directly?
Well, Vanderbilt Hospital, I mean, we reached out for a statement when we first published the report, and at first they didn't want to give a statement, and they actually just took down, as you mentioned, they just deleted, that's what people have to understand, they deleted their entire transgender clinic website. They wiped it from existence. And then today, not to us, but in general, they released a statement. And the interesting thing about the statement they released is that they do not, while they start by claiming there's misinformation and so on, they don't actually factually dispute anything in my report because they can't, because everything that I said wasn't me saying it. I was just providing video evidence, much of which you played there. Well, we know for a fact, this is an absolute fact, that Vanderbilt, they performed double mastectomies on minor girls, on children. They chemically castrate children, and they give them irreversible hormone drugs that change their bodies permanently. They're doing all of that to kids. And the other thing we should note, and I'm glad you mentioned all the other hospitals around the country, because the things I just mentioned, that's happening all across the country, in every single state, in many hospitals and in many other medical clinics. All of those things are happening. And one of the reasons why it's allowed to keep happening is because people don't know about it, because they're not talking about it. And I think for a lot of average Americans, people just walking down the street, it's sort of unthinkable. They can't imagine that this sort of thing is actually happening, but it is, which is why we have to start by raising awareness about it. And we have to do that no matter the game the left plays, by saying if you so much as mention what they're doing, it's incitement and terrorism, which is absurd. But we can't bend to that tactic. We have to keep shining a light on this.
So, and that is something to look at too. And of course, like we saw with the tweet, well, this is going to come back and cause bomb threats. And remember, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, the bomb threats in Boston that didn't have any 911 calls with them, but mysteriously still existed. Well, this has actually been floating around in the stack for a couple days, but in the wake of what was being said about Vanderbilt, we will finish the regular news off of this. Then we will do a thing that I like and thing that I hate. The arrest is made in threats against Boston Children's Hospital. So we have no record of a bomb threat. We have no 911 call of a bomb threat. We have absolutely no indication or evidence that this actually happened, but we have an arrest from Dominic Mastrangelo over at the Hill. The FBI announced on Thursday that it had made an arrest in connection with a hoax bomb threat against Boston Children's. U.S. Attorney Rachel Rollins said Kathleen Levy of Westfield, Massachusetts, is charged with one count of making a false telephonic bomb threat in connection with threats made to the hospital on August 30th, NBC 10 Boston reported. This alleged conduct is disturbing, to say the least, Rollins said during a news conference. Local media reported, bomb hoaxes cause fear, panic, and a diversion of resources that have a real impact on our communities. The people that work at Children's and the parents that bring their loved ones to Children's are under enough stress. The arrest comes amid a surge in threats made to several Boston area children's hospitals in recent weeks as conservative media personalities and activists have railed against gender-affirming care services they allege have been provided at the facilities because, of course, we have to have an editorial. Boston Children's is home to the first pediatric and adolescent transgender health program in the U.S. It became the focus of far-right social media accounts, news outlets, and bloggers last week as they found informational YouTube videos published by the hospital weeks ago about surgical offerings for transgender patients. Boston Children's said it's received a large volume of hostile online messages, phone calls, and harassing emails, including threats of violence, WCVP reported. Disinformation reporters and other observers pointed out this week some critics of the hospitals have recently suggested threats made against the hospitals and healthcare workers are overblown and have not happened. Well, show me the 911 call. Show me the report, the threat. But oh, we have an arrest now. So hey, guess what? It totally happened. I'm sorry, I'm still calling crap on this one, particularly. Vanderbilt, nothing's happened against it yet, but hey, I'm sure that there's going to be a phone call made now that Matt Walsh and Bill Lee are investigating it, and I'd be willing to put some money that the call originated after you get through all the proxies, VPNs, and mirrors, and blanks, and everything else that goes along with that. That particular call is going to originate at the J. Edgar Hoover building in Northwest DC. Oops, did I say that out loud? Maybe they try to even pin it on me for saying that it might have started at the J. Edgar Hoover building. So, that is where we're going to cut it off for news for the day, but the last thing that we do on Thursday is we do a thing, or we usually do a thing I like and a thing that I hate. But today I've got a couple things I like and 3 things that I hate. I know, it's a bit of a negative close, but 3 things that I hate. So, thing that I like, number 1, and I teased this on Monday that we were going to talk about this. I know, because Ron Helton talked about the New Glarus beer, Spotted Cow, out of New Glarus, which is right down the road from me, and I'm not doxing myself saying that. You guys all know that I live somewhere in proximity to Janesville. I've made that clear. I don't live in Janesville. I live in a town small enough that I'm not going to say the name of the town in proximity to Janesville, because you'd probably be able to find me by that, but I do live somewhere close to Janesville. So saying that New Glarus is just down the road from me is not a huge admission of anything. But I talked about this on Monday because when I take a day off from my diet, which is usually on the weekends, I eat normally. I do 2 days. I used to do 1 cheat day, but I do 2, and it does seem to be working still. I'm still losing some weight. Because otherwise, when I do 1 cheat day, I try to pack as many carbs in as I can in a day, and I eat brownies and cake and French toast and everything else. But if I do it for a couple days, it just seems to spread it out a little bit, and I don't have such a desire to gorge myself the way. But I do love to, especially since they've been on sale at Quick Trip for a little while. I enjoy a nice soda from the Sprecher Brewing Company out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Now, I don't know if you can find this where most of you live. I have seen it in places other than Wisconsin, but it's a little bit harder to find. But if you have not tried anything out of this brewery, this is a non-alcoholic one that I have in my hand. But if you have not tried something out of this brewery, I highly recommend you do so. It is absolutely delicious. And they don't use a regular cane or beet sugar or corn syrup in a lot of their things. They use honey as a sweetener, natural honey. So it's probably better for you than most of your regular soft drinks. We'll put this right back over here in producer Pepe's arms. They've got a few different flavors. They do make beer too, like actual alcoholic beer, if you can find Sprecher's beer. The brewery is over in Milwaukee. I don't know if they're doing brewery tours still right now. I know that they had storefront facing outlets, bars in various locations where you could go in, and that was the theme, was that there was Sprecher on tap, and that was all the beverage that they had was Sprecher on tap. Those places have since shut down, unfortunately. There was one in Lake Geneva that I wanted to try, but it looks it's not completely shut down. They've just changed ownership now. The Sprecher company doesn't own them anymore, which means that they don't have to have the Sprecher name out in front of them anymore. But the brewery still goes. The store locator on the website is not functioning because I was looking for places around the country to recommend to friends on where to get this kind of thing from. It is currently not functioning on their website, which is lame. I think that's very lame, actually. But yes, this is their the cream soda that I have over here. I don't know where the hell it went. I had a bottle of the Orange Dream, which is an sort of an orange cream soda, which is absolutely delicious. Also made with honey, also fire brewed. They have the Dr. Sprecher, which tastes a little bit like kind of a rich Dr. Pepper. And there is an undertone in the taste that's not present in Dr. Pepper itself that I can't identify. It was a little weird at first, but it grew on me. And don't be turned off, by the way, by the bird on the front wearing the mask. It's because he's a doctor, not because of the coof. He's got his syringe as a medical bag too, so yeah, if you can find them. The root beer, I think there's a grape one, but that's not offered in every store. Definitely the Orange Dream, go and try that one if you like citrusy kind of things. The cream soda is fantastic. Dude, I go crazy for cream soda. I always have. A&W especially is one of my favorites. But I go crazy for that. Root beer, I'm not as big of a fan of. Honestly. I've tried different root beers throughout my life. Not a fan. But orange soda, cream soda, oh yes. Can't get enough of that. So I do enjoy taking some time when I'm taking the day off the diet and going through and knocking back a bottle of Sprecher's. Or A&W or Dr. Pepper. I enjoy it all, but yeah, this is the thing that I like today is Sprecher's root beer, Sprecher's cream soda, Sprecher's Dr. Sprecher, and anything else you can find. And at one point I do want to try their beers too. I just need to figure out where I can buy them from. Oh, can you not get it there, Ron Helton? We might have to make an emergency mailing at that point. But that's what we have for that. And the other thing that I like today, which means we have to bring the screenshot back in, is we keep hearing on Twitter, well, what's the conservative plan? What's the conservative plan? Is there a plan? What's the plan? And it's not like, do you trust the plan yet? It's, what's your plan to fight inflation? What's your plan to to fight this, to fight that. What's your plan to get the economy back on track? Well, we will see if they can implement it, which they probably can't, but they have listed a plan. Reading again from the Daily Wire, from Ben Ziesloff, conservatives list 8 policies to restart the economy under a Republican Congress. Current and former conservative officials outlined an 8-pronged plan on Wednesday to encourage economic development under a Republican Congress. The U.S. witnessed 2 consecutive quarters of negative output growth, while recent data from Federal Reserve indicate that the economy will likely remain stagnant into the third quarter. The American Small Business Prosperity Plan, launched by the Job Creators Network, called on various tax and regulatory reforms that Republican lawmakers ought to endorse, according to a press release obtained by the Daily Wire. Among other elements, Among other elements, the framework calls for exempting small businesses from all new regulations, establishing able-bodied requirements for welfare recipients, and making the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act permanent. Well, that's you should have done in the first place. That should not have had a sunset on it. They might not ship it, but there are other people out there that might. Don't you worry, Helton. We'll figure something out. Law currently scheduled to incrementally expire is among the most important legislative accomplishments of the admin of the former president. Let's see. Do we actually have a list? We don't have a list. The plan also calls for an increase in oil production. President Biden has leased less federal land for drilling than any of his predecessors since the end of World War II. The national average price for gasoline was $2.38 a gallon when Biden assumed office, and has increased to $3.53 per gallon at the start of the Russian invasion. After surpassing $5 a gallon in early June, prices have subsided to $3.68 per gallon as of Wednesday, according to data from AAA. Tax certainty, regulatory certainty, and an end to wasteful inflationary spending and unleashing domestic drilling to lower energy prices are just a few key aspects of the plan that will especially help small businesses that are the economic backbone of our great nation. Former Kentucky Governor Matt Bevins added, "Every American should encourage and support the dignity and pride that comes from working. The health of our economy is not a partisan issue." So, and that is important to come back and look at that too. Number one, the big one, is the fuel. That's going to be the biggest one off of this, is to get the fuel price down. Possibly around what we saw during the stagnant period in June of 2020, 91 cents a gallon. Do you know how many people, if you could have that and have that for long term, and I'm not talking like the 5 months that we had it, 4 or 5 months that we had it like that in 2020, because nobody was going out and driving because everyone was afraid to be locked in their homes. I am talking like 5 years of that. Do you know how robust and booming this economy would be if gas was where it was at that point? I think it was what, $1.18 national average, $1.25 national average. I know it was 91 cents here. And there were a few various other places along I-95 going down from DC to Florida, where we were seeing it at 91, 95, 99 cents a gallon. I think we saw 89 at one point. I'll have to ask Stephen Ignoramus. But I think we saw 89 at one point. Do you know how fast that would be? Because the people who are spending money, all their money on fuel, would go back out and they'd have a bunch of money left over and they'd say, hey, what can I do to make this work? And they'd either go buy, sign up for a new service, cause a demand for manufacturing, or start a business of their own to go back and employ more people. We'd be at a point where people were offering ridiculous wages to try to get and snipe people away from other companies. Again, that in and of itself would be the kickstart the economy would need, but also, again, regulatory and taxes. If you know that you're going to have low taxes for a while, then you don't have to come back and worry about how you pay the bill at the end of the year, and you don't have to worry that somewhere in the middle of things you're going to get regulated out of business. These are great things to go back and do this, and I hope A, that they can do it, that they can back this up with words, or B, the big one, if they can actually make things, if they can put their money where their mouth is. I don't have a lot of confidence in House and Senate Republicans to do so, but these are things that I would love to see. All right, now for a few things that I hate. From the New York Post. 850 more unvaxxed New York City teachers' aides fired for not complying with the mandate. Yes, as the Biden admin is taking a victory lap over historic low unemployment, he feels that, especially in his big blue enclave, they need to add to that number. Apparently it might be too low. Uh-oh. What did we do? Oh. No, it wasn't Twitch that deleted it. It was my my robot. The only people who can post links in Twitch are mods. But you can throw it in the Discord as well. And by the way, I can still see it on the chat bot. I can still see it here. So I can look into it from there. But yeah, if you want to post a link, the most effective way to do that is always going to be in the Discord. Because once again, we get the Twitch spurgs. And the reason we have the Nightbot is in there is because of the progressive Twitch spurgs who come here, who like to come in and spam links and stuff. So it's nothing personal. It was me. And it wasn't just the Odyssey either. It's all links get blocked by the Nightbot, unless you have the little sword. From Susan Edelman. The City Department of Education has axed another 850 teachers and classroom aides, bringing the total to nearly 2,000 school employees fired for failure to comply with the vaccine mandate increasingly struck down in court. We don't have enough staff to cover what we need to do. Let's go fire more people. And then we'll bring in the National Guard to sit in where they're supposed to be. About 1,300 Department of Education employees who took a year's unpaid leave with benefits agreed to show proof of the pinkpox vaccination by September 5th, or be deemed to have voluntarily resigned. And of course, they're voluntarily resigned, so they don't qualify for unemployment. I wouldn't have. I would have told you, screw you. I want it on record that you canned me. Of those staffers, 450 got a shot by the deadline and are returning to their prior schools or work locations, DOE officials told the Post. They include some 225 teachers and 135 paraprofessionals. The 850 let go makes roughly 1,950 DOE staffers terminated since the vaccine mandate took effect on October 29th, 2021. Rochelle Garcia, an elementary school teacher in Brooklyn for 15 years and a mother of two, worked fully in person during the pandemic and never got sick, she said. But she refused to get vaccinated, finally taking a leave after the DOE denied her request for a religious exemption. So again, not only are you going out and forcing these people out of their jobs, for a mandate that doesn't do a damn thing, but you're also forcing them to say, I quit, so they can't get unemployment while they go and look for a new job. This is scary crap, dude. Thing that I hate number 2 comes to us, and I found this right before I hit the live button today. Right Girl Problems puts out, PETA needs to shut the hell up. Is what I'm thinking. Demands LOL, because PETA, and not the cool PETA, people eating tasty animals, Lame, PETA. People for the ethical treatment of animals. Meat-eating men should be banned from having sex, says PETA. Animal rights group PETA has demanded men who eat meat should be banned from having sex. And then, replying to herself in a thread, she says, apparently it's real. With a couple of headlines down here as well. PETA calls for sex strike against meat-eating men to save the world. Well, it didn't work in the abortion and the Roe debate, so I don't know what the hell you think it's going to do here. You couldn't organize this for abortion rights, privileges. Why do you think it's going to be the majority of the human population it's going to work for? And I like the fact that they're in underwear and cows' heads too, by the way. So, and thing that I hate, number 3, the end of an era. And again, we go along with this crazy lady and this crazy dude who think that Republicans have no place in the world. Milquetoast. Scott Adams has also hit. From Fox News, Dilbert author Scott Adams says comic strip about corporate office culture removed from 77 newspapers. Why? Most likely because he is a MAGA guy. Scott Adams has authored Dilbert since 1989, but says newspaper owner Lee Enterprises has ended the comics in dozens of publications. From Louis Cassiano. The Dilbert comic strip, named after the title character, struggling to make it in the corporate ladder and often pokes fun at office culture with satirical humor and social commentary, has been canceled in nearly 80 markets, its authors told Fox News. Scott Adams, who has written and illustrated the popular comic since 1989, said Lee Enterprises stopped printing it this week. The media company owns nearly 100 newspapers throughout the country. It was a part of a larger overhaul, I believe, of comics, but why they decided what was in and what was out, that's not known to anyone except them, I guess, he told Fox News. Fox News has reached out to Lee Enterprises. Adams noted that other comic strips are also permanently canceled, but the decisions on which ones to get rid of were made individually. Dilbert appears in thousands of newspapers across 57 counties in 19 languages, according to Adams' website. The comic strip has been one of the most popular for many years, and more than 20 million Dilbert-themed books and calendars have been printed. In recent years, Adams has poked fun at themes related to the workplace, most recently environmental, social, and governance issues, and the introduction of a new character named Dave, who is black but identifies as white. Wow, it's been a while since I've read Dilbert, because I don't remember any of that. Dave, who's named after Adams' brother, is a prankster who likes to mess with the boss, who is happy that he met his diversity quota, Adams said of the cartoon. All the wokeness and anything that permeated from ESG, so that stuff made its way into the business world, and then it became proper content for Dilbert, Adams said. The problem is that people see that even though it's a workplace-related joke, but it's more about how they implement it. He said some newspapers voiced concerns after receiving complaints about the content, but he was not sure if it had anything to do with the removal of Dilbert. In Tuesday's strip, the supervisor is seen explaining to Dave how to increase the company's ESG rating. Dave, I need to boost our company's ESG rating, so I'm promoting you to be our CTO. I know you identify as white, so that won't help our ESG scores, but would it be too much trouble to identify as gay, the boss asked. Depending on how hard you want me to see it, Dave responds. Just wear better shirts, the supervisor replies. That's kind of spicy, actually. I'm going to just see if I can find a Dilbert book. I actually really am. Because this is Simon Entertainment, and of course, Adams could probably use the support if he's being taken out of 77 markets. And I do generally like Dilbert. I mean, I see the comic strips posted around various other places. I know that there is like when I first switched to Android, I found a comic app that I could go and pick and see various comics day in and day out, because a lot of them are daily comics. There are a few of them that I followed too. I actually kind of enjoyed that. I didn't get it when I switched up to, I think the Note 4 was when I stopped looking at the comic strips, but I don't know why, because I enjoy that kind of thing. So I might have to go back and go check that out. But with that, our apologies to Scott Adams that you've been taken out of 77 networks, and I hope that it is just about decision making and broader things and not enough people liking the comic, and less about the fact that you are still, in spite of everything, a MAGA dude. Let's get out of here for the day. Man, this is going to taste good on Saturday. Should I just keep it up here for tomorrow's show too? I might, just for the hell of it. I mean, it's natural sugar, it's not aspartame. It'll keep for a while. And it's bottled. I don't know. I don't typically put the product on the camera unless I'm getting paid to do so. Hey, maybe Sprecher will do that. I don't know. But we're out of here for the day. We're done. Probably a good thing because it's 10 to 10. So let's head out of here. Oh, we already changed the scene. Huh. I want to go change out to the full camera. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm already in that. Oops. That's not what I wanted to do. It's not time for that yet. Alright, let's head out of here. Where's my outro music? Alright, so thanks everybody who came by and chatted with us. We had a busy chat day today too, by the way, and that means that we'll have a lot of names in the notebook here when I go through and I give thanks to everybody who chatted in the live chat tomorrow. So definitely come back out and hang out with us tomorrow for more news, more headlines, and the live chat too, by the way. Do keep in mind that we are trying to cater to an AM radio audience, so I'm not going to be able to get to everybody's live chat because, well, I love you guys, but sometimes you're a little bit too spicy for the AM radio crowd, so do keep that in mind. Otherwise, come back here and join us here tomorrow. See what's in the news, what's in the headlines. See if Letitia James comes out and she's got the goods and she finally files for the arrest this time. It's going to be the Frog March out of Mar-a-Lago. It's going to be a thing. It's not going to happen. But come back and join us as we look through what the headlines are, where the Dow goes, what happens with the economy, and everything else that we're going to come and see out of this. Definitely looking forward to seeing you. And of course, as I always say, my favorite segment is getting to say thank you to the viewers. I love that segment. That is my favorite part of the week. And even if I can't read all your chats, I do love seeing them as well. And I do go back and read them throughout as well. Definitely looking forward to seeing you guys here tomorrow. And stick around if you're on Twitch for raid time. We'll see who we can go and find. It'll probably be Nephora given the time of morning that it is. So looking forward to that. We will see you here. And until then, I am Jay Edgar. And this is Contemporary. Take care.